What's up, guys? This is Matt McAndrew from Rain City Drive, and I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
Congratulations with the new record, self-titled.
Yep.
Dive me into this creative process for this album. Like, I love that you guys went into the studio with Eric Reprid. And I think the last time I spoke to you, I was like mentioning like it would be awesome to work with someone like Eric.
Okay.
So coming into the studio and creating this record with Eric, like, how different was it this time around?
Yeah, so I mean, for me and the guys, the last record we did was with our good friend Jimmy Alexander from Awaken I Am. Yeah. And that was a super cool process. The guys, when when it was still Slaves, making Beautiful Death with Johnny, like that record turned out awesome with Eric. So we kind of knew that would always be a cool option. Yeah. It just kind of didn't line up until this effort, and so we did half of it with him and then half of it with Matt Squire, which was cool. So we kind of got to do have a little intermission in the middle and then kind of reset. It kind of maybe reset creatively and setting wise, instead of just banging it all out in one go, which was kind of nice. Get a little bit of a different perspective for sure. But no, it's great. I mean, I was a fan of Eric's work for Beautiful Death, touring on that stuff with the guys. So I figured it would be good. It was fun. He's a real vocal nerd like I am, so it was really fun to track stuff and do all the harmony stacks and whatever. And I feel like he has a good ear for what'll work with active rock and everything. And that there'd be times where I would write all right, I got all the lyrics, and then it'd be can we change that a little bit? And it'd be oh, maybe, you know what I mean? So, but no, it's cool, man. It's cool.
And the fact that he is like a vocal nerd, just like you, how do you feel that coming into the vocal recording of this album? How do you feel that he made you kind of step out of that comfort zone, and how did you challenge your own self in the vocals this time?
I mean, so I would say for this record compared to Better Days, I felt filling in to Johnny's shoes in Slaves, I felt like it was very much needed to be big and needed to be great and something that people would like. And I listened back to Beautiful Death and was okay, he hit all these notes and he did this, so I have to make sure that my range is on point and my delivery is on point or whatever. For this record, I was I feel like I kind of did that, and I just want to sing and just do my thing, and then somehow wound up pushing harder and singing higher than I ever have, because that's just always how people are that would sound sick if you did this, and I'm just but no, it was cool. Grew more as a vocalist like I do every time, and found there was a little left in the tank that I didn't think I had. But yeah, no, I mean with Eric, he's a singer himself, and so he he understands what's going on, and it's just fun to work with him. And yeah, I don't know. It was the same thing with Jimmy, also a singer, and so kind of speak the same language. And then you have somebody like Matt Squire, who's written such big pop hits and kind of worked with people like Max Martin and everything. I was really excited to work with him because of that, and so it was fun to get his perspective on the writing process and structuring melodies. A lot of that was I would freestyle a bunch of melodies and be oh yeah, I like that one, and kind of piecing it together and seeing how that whole Swedish school puts things together in a way that's just super satisfying. So I was listening to demos before we had lyrics even, and just being this really sounds awesome, and then me going through which is a little different for me too. Usually I like to write a good bit of the lyrics as I'm coming up with melodies, or else you just get stuck with this melody that sounds cool, and then you have no words and you're what do I want to talk about? Which I did a little bit of that on this process, and still came up with shit that I was happy with, which was cool. But yeah, it's always a different process,
I feel like that makes it harder when you're coming in with a melody and then trying to work lyrics around it. Just because if the melody fits so perfectly the way it is, how do you make those lyrics fit accordingly?
Yeah.
During this process, was there a particular song that you felt you had that specific challenge?
Most of them, bro. For example, for something Talk to a Friend, that melody for the chorus like came with those lyrics. Like that was something that I wanted to do anyways. And then I was like, cool, I at least know what the whole concept is. And usually that's how I'll work, is like start with a chorus. So I know like the bumper sticker, what we're kind of talking about. But no, I mean, like even more specific, like a song like Waiting on You, we had the instrumental, we had the melody, and then because of the way it sounded, we knew that we wanted that to be the album opener. So I was like, what do I want to say lyrically that would be a cool way to start off the album? So that's the kind of the concept of like Waiting on You, and it's sort of filling in the listener of like what happened with me like since we last spoke on the last album. So it was like super boxed in, but sometimes that can be fun too. You know what I mean? Where you're like, it's really specific, like this is what the lyric has to be, and then you can just kind of fill it in. Because on the flip side of that, it could be like, talk about anything, and you're like, oh God, what am I gonna say? So yeah, the lyrics are by far most important to me. They also are the most stressful. You know what I mean? Like I love singing, I love melodies and everything, but like that I like feel like I take the most pride in that part, and I'm always just like banging my head against the wall. But scatting melodies is fun. You know what I mean? So.
That's what I was gonna ask. Like, are you more of a scatter or a hummer whenever you like come up with either a cool melody or like a cool lyric?
So I'll usually just like do a lot of like word vomity kind of stuff, and sometimes it'll sound like I say something, and then I'll let that guide me. A lot of times, it, like as like a singer, there's certain vowels that are like easier to sing on, or like kind of feel open, and so it's like, okay, well if I'm naturally going towards that kind of sound, what's a word that would fit with that? Funnily enough, the song Eternity, which is maybe my favorite on the album, I was on vocal rest when I wrote that top line. So like, because I was pushing really hard in the studio with Eric, and he's like, just kind of shut it down. So I was okay. So I went home, but I knew I had to write that song. So I was it was like total vocal rest, but writing all the lyrics that I could hear to my head, and I was like hyped, and I was like, this is gonna be sick. Only not saying that, just being like, nothing. And then the next day being off vocal rest and like getting to try it out for the first time, because usually you're singing it and like workshopping as you go. But that was an interesting, different thing too.
Is that why it's probably a favorite song of yours, because of that whole experience that you had, or is there a deeper meaning in it for you?
I just like I love the track that the guys made for that one. It's a little different. It's like the only song that we've done together that's like not in 4/4 even. It's like that waltz time, which is kind of different and has this cool kind of ominous weird feel to it. And then lyrically, it was just one of my favorites. I thought it was a cool kind of concept. So yeah.
What other songs on this record do you feel like you guys either changed or tried to change the tempo, just like you did with this song?
Oh, so the song Psycho, I don't know if you've heard it. That one, like we did like, that's maybe like the fourth version of that song. So initially, it was something that we'd worked on that sounded a little more like, it was like double time, like Psycho, there's only one, and it was like a little more like pop punk or something. And we're like, maybe that doesn't really fit. And then we did one that was like halftime, kind of more like rock, and it's like, that doesn't really fit. And then we did the one that kind of that you hear on the record was like the one that we landed on. We tried a bunch of other stuff in the studio too that was maybe more like straight ahead pop, but we wound up going with that sort of a little more R&B kind of slick guitar lines. Like that just really felt right. So that there's like 5 versions of that song, you know what I mean? So every once in a while that happens. Then there's other times where you just land on it and you're like, this is the vibe, and everybody's cool, And
how are you able to make it to the point where like you can kind of test out different styles of genres, I guess, on this record, but it's still a cohesive record? Like, did you feel like there was a lot of trial and error to be able to get them to sound perfectly together?
So yeah, I mean, I would say with that, like, I'm always pushing to branch out and like stretch and try different things, because in my mind it's like it's a band of five people, and like everybody gets a say and has an equal vote and whatever, and like, so for me that's already enough parameters. It's like there's 5 different people with 5 different tastes. We all like all kinds of stuff, but we're not necessarily all gonna totally agree, right? So it's like that's already kind of pulling it in different directions. So then at that point I'm like, let's just see what we can get away with, and let's like, I'm big on like, I just want to try as many different things as we can, and like not ask for permission, so to speak. Like, especially like within the genre of rock, it's like it's already sort of, people have a preconceived notion of like what that has to sound like, versus like pop, let's say it's just pop is whatever's popular. If a song pops off, like something like that Billie Eilish sound like wasn't really considered pop like before she did it and it blew up. You know what I mean? So I think rock it usually is guitar oriented music. No problem. We love guitars. We play guitars. You know what I mean? And like maybe has some kind of an edge to it. But other than that, I feel like it could sound like anything, right? So. Yeah, it's fun to kind of branch out, and I think you do something once, and then you set the precedent, and that becomes part of the sound. Now, like I was lucky, like stepping in with these guys, like there was already a precedent with Slaves where it was like there was a lot of different genres and styles kind of going on, anyways, and so just to expand on that a little bit, there was there's like a lot that we can do that feels genuine to like who we are and whatever. And I think it's easy to overthink it as artists, and then at the end of the day, it's kind of like, do we like this? Is this cool? Like, is this something that we would do? Like, great, Yeah. So, yeah.
Do you feel like the name change helped the band kind of be more creative in this? Like, do you feel like it had any kind of impact in the creative process at all?
Sure. So, like, I would say, like, the rebrand and like starting over as like, okay, this is a new band, Rain City Drive. The old catalog is Slaves, right? So that's like that is an opportunity to say like this could sound like anything, and that's like one thinking. But then the other side of that is like it's still the five of us, and we didn't want to freak people out and be like, if you liked To Better Days, like it's still the five of us, and we're just making a follow-up record to that. Like as far as we're concerned, like To Better Days like is part of Rain City Drive, and like it is. So yeah, we wanted people to like not the same way like when we made To Better Days, it's like we all liked Beautiful Death, and we're like it's going to be similar to that. And then the same way that we all loved To Better Days, it was like it's going to be similar enough to that. I think this next record, maybe we've earned the right to like branch out a little bit more. I'm not saying that we will. But yeah, I think that was kind of the thought that went into that. But no, that is totally true. It's like we could have just went totally, yeah. So and just personally, it's nice for all of us to be like founding members now and feel like that always feels good. You don't feel like you're kind of carrying around any old kind of legacies or vibes, or like my absolute favorite thing now is like for fans to just be like, oh, I just love To Better Days. And I'm like, great, like we still did that. So like if I'm competing against myself, like awesome, you know what I mean? So that feels good,
Now the fact that you got to work with Eric Ron and Matt Squire at the same time for this record, like, do you feel like the dynamics changed whenever you would wrap up with Eric and then jump in with Matt, or do you feel like it was still kind of like the same kind of vibe, same kind of feelings?
I would say definitely different vibes. So we did the first half with Eric here, and then we went to Virginia to work with Matt. So it was kind of blocked out like that. And yeah, I mean they're both totally different guys, totally different approaches in the studio. There's things I like about both of their styles. You know what I mean? I don't know. It was cool. Again, it was nice for me because mentally it kind of it like made it into like a 2-course meal where I wasn't just like, oh shit, we have 10 plus songs to write right now, and it's like it was nice to kind of break it up. But I mean, no, they have totally different styles. Matt's like super laid back and just about the creative process and like really like kind of chill guy. And I would say Eric is a little more like task oriented and like there's pros to both styles,
Now, as far as the five of you goes, coming into this record, like, what do you feel was the biggest evolution that you guys had as a whole?
I don't know, man. I mean, again, like for me, like if it could have been just from the jump, like To Better Days would have always been a Rain City Drive record, and like it is now. So like there wasn't a crazy departure from that. I think like we all just tried to we really liked that record, but we all just tried to kind of learn from that. And I mean, just speaking personally, like there's shit that happens in your life that like influences the lyrics and stuff like that. And then like I'm also like typically with the exception of Psycho, that was an idea that I kind of started with, and then we worked around that. It's always like we wind up with a cool instrumental demo that the guys make, and then I'm trying to fit vocals over top of it. So it's like they're bringing in some kind of a mood, and then I'm like, okay, well, like vocally it has to fit in kind of this emotional lane. So there's just something in the air. There's something going on in the world or whatever, and in our personal lives, and that's kind of the record that you wind up making. But I don't know. Like I said, maybe the next one will be vastly different. I doubt it, but I feel like it would at least be the first one where we would feel like everybody's cool, everybody knows this is the band, and like what I've done, and okay, then we can move on, and maybe stretch out even more, Yeah. But honestly, I feel like right now we're on tour with Memphis, which is awesome and we love it. And it's more like that active rock, like Octane Lane, which is great. And then the next tour we're doing right after this is with Set It Off, which is a little bit more like pop rock kind of leaning tour, which is fun for us because I feel like sometimes in the studio, you want to branch out style wise, but then you're like, well, what kind of home is this style really going to find? If like if our opportunity is in this genre and in this lane and whatever, like what's the point of doing something else other than just for self-satisfaction? But to get these kind of diverse tours is fun because then it's like, then you start to build set lists that are a little diverse, and you can pick some of the more poppy elements of the 2 records that we have out, you know what I mean? And like, oh, this might be how this set would go. Like for this one, I'm not playing any acoustic guitar, for example. We wanted to keep it a little more upbeat and more like harder, but like for that, totally, you know what I mean? So I think like as we get more diverse tour offers, I feel like we're a band that can fit in a lot of different little bills. It'll help justify to ourselves like, yeah, we should chase that vibe or that vibe in the studio, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's been kind of fun.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, congratulations with this record. You guys are, have created another masterpiece as it is. So I'm looking forward to definitely more music from you guys, obviously. But like, yeah, I'm looking forward to the upcoming tour as well because it's like just like you mentioned it. It's 2 different vibes that we're gonna get, and as fans, like we get to experience like 2 different live shows. So that'll be cool.
Totally, man. Yeah, we're super big on that. We also are trying to implement like not playing the same exact set every night on any tour. I feel like it's just more fun for us, and honestly we have such great fans that sometimes we'll do like 5 shows in a row or something, and I feel bad being like, how was that same show again? You know what I mean? Like, and they're like, it's always different, but I would like it to be really different. So also, as that's the thing that happens too, like as you put more records out there, it's like it would suck to basically just like retire a lot of songs just because it's like, and it's great to have metrics like Spotify and everything, where you're like, these are our top songs. But what's great about being back in person too is like you'll have fans come out and be like, dude, you know what song I really like? And it's like a song that we were thinking like, I don't think anybody really liked that, and we'll probably never play it live. And then it's like, hey, wait a minute, So yeah, it's that's what's super cool about being back in person. And I would much rather just like live in this world and like get the real world feedback, you know what I mean? And from people who care enough to come out, and it's great,
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, I'm looking forward to doing this again. Cool. And you guys be sure to check out the new album. It's out now. It's called, it's self-titled Rain City Drive. And thanks for watching here on Front Row Live.